Years ago, a friend gave me a book as a Christmas gift. It was simply called If, and it's filled with sentence starters such as, if your house were burning and you could choose to save one item other than photos, what would you choose? My friends and I often use these simple sentence starters to stimulate conversation when we get together. Well, I'm going to play the game with you, right here and now. Here's my question. If you could invite anyone you wished, living or dead, to share a meal with you, who would it be? When I thought about this question, my mind went to family members long gone home to God with whom I would dearly love to share another meal. Then I thought about historical figures that I would love to talk with over a meal. Queen Victoria, or Bonnie Prince Charlie, or Sir John A. Macdonald. And then my mind moved to ponder people whose values have shaped mine, people I have admired or considered as role models. Catherine Macaulay, foundress of the Sisters of Mercy, St. Alphonsus Liguori, founder of the Redemptorist, Dr. Tom Dooley, the famed jungle doctor of Laos in the late 1950s, or maybe Dorothy Day or Archbishop Oscar Romero. My mind wandered to consider who Jesus might invite to his table, and as I thought about it, I realized that we actually know. We know who Jesus would want to share a meal with. Listen to this passage from John's Gospel. It's a story that takes place after the resurrection, perhaps that very night and the next morning. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." They said to him, "We will go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you'll find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and he jumped into the lake. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now, none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. About 3 years before this event, Jesus had invited his first 4 followers, fishermen all, to follow him and share his mission by saying, "I will make you fishers of people." They accepted this invitation. They followed him. They sat at his feet while he taught the crowds. They watched him perform miracles and feed the multitudes and raise the dead. Wouldn't you think their faith in him would be solid? And here they are, on the very day that he rose from the dead. They've given up and gone back to Galilee and their old life of fishing. What does this have to say to us, the modern-day disciples? Well, have you ever lost hope? If you have, then you are in good company, because I think that's just what happened to the disciples. Come and have breakfast, Jesus invites the disciples. He invites us too. Jesus prepares a breakfast for these fishermen. He feeds them, but notice what he feeds them. he invites the disciples to bring their own fish, the ones they have just caught, to the fire. And they don't seem to realize that Jesus is feeding them with the very fish that they themselves caught. It's as if he were saying, "You have all that you need to feed yourselves and others. I've given you all the tools that you'll need." He is assuring them that he'll continue to feed them and that he will not abandon them. Just as when Jesus multiplied the bread and fish which the boy had to feed the 5,000, he first sent the disciples searching through the crowd to see what they could supply. In this present story, he uses the fish caught by his friends to feed them and show how they can feed others. The wonder of this is that God, who could so easily do it all alone, nevertheless gives us the great privilege of being co-workers. What Jesus invites you to do may be a very simple thing. You may have the opportunity to invite your neighbors in for a cup of coffee and share your faith with them, or you might give a word of comfort or encouragement that means very little to you, but means the world to another. While that may seem an insignificant thing now, when history has come to an end and we are all gathered on the shore with Jesus, this may well become the greatest thing you've ever done. We will see ourselves as tremendously privileged to have worked with God in what he was doing in and for the world. God always supplies in abundance, as he had supplied the fish in this instance more than anyone anticipated, and the work went forward. In this passage, the fishers caught 153 fish. Why 153? St. Jerome, the early church father, tells us that among the Greeks, it was widely believed that there were 153 kinds of fish in the sea, so this number represents the total number of species of fish known to exist at the time. So cast your net wide. Welcome everyone. That, I think, is why this story is included, given to us in the gospel, to teach us that in the work of evangelizing, whether through preaching to the multitudes or giving quiet witness of a life lived in charity, God is working with us and will always supply far more than we ever dreamed. Let us give thanks to God for feeding us as we need to be fed and where we need to be fed. And let us also give thanks for the truly awesome gift of being called into partnership with that God.